It's now time for Party Chat Sports.
The only thing else I got to say is, how about them Cowboys?
Welcome back, everybody, to Party Chat Sports. Week 13 in the books, and what a week it was. What a week it was. We got Dillon, we got Drew, and we got myself all here. We'll see if Cam is able to join us at some point during this episode. But lucky number 13 started with Thursday Night Football, the best Thursday Night Football game we've had in a long time. Cowboys winning that one 41-35 against the Seahawks. A lot of fireworks in this one. Drew, take it away.
Yeah, it'll be much better than this Thursday night game coming up here today. As this episode releases, it'll be today. So
don't hate.
Don't turn in. Save yourselves some time. Tell your special, your special someone, your loved ones that you want to hang out today. It's basically a bye week for Thursday night. Just don't watch. You don't need to. Anyways, Seahawks Cowboys. That was quite the game. A Seahawks team that was in the playoffs, kind of is still in the playoff hunt. With a tough schedule ahead of them. So as we talked about already, so hard for them. Cowboys, looking to prove themselves against a better opponent. So kind of a mash of two different storylines. Each team had something to fight for, something to prove, and the Cowboys end up coming on top. You can talk about all of a sudden the Seahawks aren't as good, ain't that good of a team anymore.
They no longer have a winning record.
Yeah, now they're 500. If they would have won, they would have been 7-5. But oh well. They didn't win. They lost. Cowboys won. The Seahawks fought hard. Like I said, they're fighting for a playoff position. The tough schedule coming up. They have to, if they want to keep their playoff hopes alive, they're going to have to, find a way to win. A couple of these, including the Thursday night game, the next two, if they wanted to keep their playoff hopes alive, they really needed to find a way to win at least one, probably two of those. Obviously, one was a loss. Next one is going to be the 49ers, I think,
that's a loss.
49ers, Monday night.
Yeah,
Sunday,
which is
Sunday.
not looking good. 49ers look like the Avengers.
And then Eagles.
We'll get to that later.
Night.
But what was I saying? Yeah, the main takeaway for me was the defense got exposed. But when your defense got exposed, your offense, and most importantly, the MVP, was able to keep you in the game and win the game. And the defense showed up when it mattered at the end of the game. So if you want to give them any flowers, I guess that's that. But they were getting torched, specifically Bland. He was looking like burnt toast there at the beginning, at least the first half. It was a little bit better in the second half. He ended up grabbing an interception, which was a really nice interception there. But he was
Didn't
getting
take it to the crib though. So
he did not. The first one, the first DK long touchdown, it was pretty bad on Bland. I won't put all the blame on him. I don't know what Donovan Wilson was doing at safety. He just completely whiffed, and he probably was supposed to be picking him up. I think Bland probably knew the safety was supposed to be over top, But either way, super long touchdown. And then after that, Bland couldn't guard anyone. So, which isn't necessarily a fault to Bland. I mean, it is bad when you can't cover anyone, but the Seahawks also have a crazy wide receiver group. So Jackson Smith and Jigba has been doing pretty well these last few weeks, who looked really good on the Thursday night game. Lockett didn't look as good as we know he can be. Had a drop kind of late in the game. I don't know if it was fourth quarter, third quarter. But still, still a solid receiver. And then DK obviously is just a freak. He recorded the fastest speed in the NFL this season on that catch, run into the end zone. So it's not like anyone was going to catch him anyways. You just have absolute freaks. And then Geno was playing really, really well for a majority of this game. I mean, there was a couple throws, and most importantly, the time that he was taking to throw it. He was getting rid of the ball quick. We didn't have a single sack against the Seahawks. And that our pressure rate was still crazy, something like 30, 40, I don't remember, something high %. So we were getting pressures. He was just getting rid of the ball so fast that the D-line really couldn't affect him too much. I mean, obviously the pressures, but no actual sacks. So Geno was really, really playing well for most of the game, if not all of it. So great to see from the offense. Like I said before, you went hit for hit, points for points, against the Seahawks, who our defense could not stop them. I mean, they there was not a single punt in this game, not a single one.
That's crazy.
That's only happened. That was the 5th time, I think, in NFL history. And I think, interesting enough, Mike McCarthy was the coach for 2 of those games, I think. Was a coach in 2 of those games. At least 2. So he has a strange high percentage of games with no punts. I don't know what that means, but he won. So
it means something. I don't know. It means something.
We'll figure it out. Shout out to Big Mike. He had appendicitis. He got his appendix removed today. So heal up, big boy. Anyways, yeah, the Ferguson made Jamal Adams his son. He adopted him. That was great to see. The little first down in Quandre Diggs' face, man, that got me fired up. And then Adams comes over, running his mouth, and then Ferg just snags that ball right in his face, and gives him the stare down. Better go sit your goofy ass down.
He's not good anymore. He's not. Anyone that thinks that Jamal Adams is good, he's not.
I'm so glad we didn't get him. We would be terrible if we made that trade for Adams. We would be terrible.
For us, that resulted. We got Elijah Vera Tucker and Garrett Wilson.
That's pretty good.
That's good.
So
that's pretty good.
If only they could stay healthy, one, and then the second one had a quarterback. But we'll get there.
We'll get there.
Jamal Adams. I lost all respect for him after him beefing with the reporter's family. Like,
I saw that.
The tweet floating out today is he said, if you go low, I'll go lower.
What a
I don't think that's not a stance I would want to stand behind. That's not how I would want to represent myself.
He's been standing behind the fact that he called out a reporter's wife for how she looked.
Yeah.
Like, that's whatever. You don't do that.
He's literally saying he's low, he's down, he's in the mud.
And I think
he's
all the tweet didn't say Jamal Adams specifically. It was just like, wow, like to the catch or something like that. And then Jamal Adams was like, wow, to how his wife looked. Like, that's Antonio Brown level bad.
Well, I don't know.
Anyways, maybe not quite, but
yeah, I don't know about that.
Maybe not quite that low, but still.
We'll get. He's got some more time until he gets at AB level.
But
Needs a little bit more CTE before he gets there.
But yeah, Ferguson, man, he really put on a show. He had a nice little hurdle. He was yapping. You need someone to get the energy going. He was getting the energy going. And so you love to see that. Baby Kelsey, right there. That's what I'm talking about.
You've been saying
He's got that fire. He's got a little white groove in him. He's the man. He's the man. So that was good to see. CD with a good game, couple big time drops. One on fourth down was definitely a drop. Ended up in a turnover on downs, obviously, and then there was one that in the game the broadcasters were talking about how Dak was he forced it and it was a bad throw, and then all of a sudden on the replay, it is a dot in between CD's hands, and he just misses it, just lets it go. I mean, it could not have been a better ball than what it was. You like to see CD make that catch. I don't know, maybe he thought he was going to get hit. Maybe he thought it was a bad throw, but it literally hit him. It would have hit him in the hands. His hands were a bit too wide. It was a little bit behind him, but it had to be where the defenders were. So I won't necessarily put that one on him, but he easily could have caught that. But otherwise, a good game for him. Which is we've come to expect those the last 6 weeks or so, really since the bye week when the whole offense started to turn around. CD was pretty much the main, obviously Dak and then CD are the main guys leading the charge on offense for us. So Cooks is starting to get a little bit more active as well, which is good to see. Michael Gallup, interestingly, has been missing, which is unfortunately a good thing. Tolbert has taken his place, taken almost all of his snaps, which I loved Gallup, but he fell off after the injury. And really before the injury, his main thing was jump balls, deep routes, that kind of stuff. And the last couple of years, for whatever reason, we're throwing them short, like slants and comebacks, and it's not working out. I don't know if even before the injury, if that's even something he would have been good with, but he's not good at it now. And so it's time for Tolbert, correctly so, to be taking his snaps. So that's good. And one of the best things that we saw from Tolbert in this game was on the play where Dak broke the sack, made that little boy get off him. Tolbert did some running around, did some wide receiver scramble drill, found some open space and sat on the sideline and caught a ball. It was a good catch by Tolbert, making sure his feet were in bounds, getting to a spot where Dak could see him while he was escaping that child that tried to wrap up his ankles. So not much more to say. Like I said, defense needs some improvement. Tough week here against the Eagles. Definitely looking forward to that. Eagles coming off a big loss. We'll get to that in a little while. Cowboys coming off a big win, so we'll see. Fun matchup.
And you guys get a little extra rest heading into that game too.
We do.
Mm-hmm.
As long as Dak performed or has another good game against the Eagles, I think he should be the MVP favorite. That was kind of my takeaway from this game was he is the MVP of the league right now. The way he's playing, and especially compared to like some of the other guys that are up there in MVP voting. I will not name them, but you guys, I'm sure, can figure out who I'm talking about. He's been performing a lot better. I mean, he's got CD, who's got 116 yards. Jake Ferguson with 77. He's spreading the ball around. Brandon Cooks, like you said, getting involved. So it's not just him like finding only CD. He's spreading the ball around very well. And most importantly, right now he's winning games. If he continues to win games, if he continues to play like he is, if he has another game like he did the last time you guys play the Eagles, you guys should be able to win. And if you don't, that should not impact his MVP standings, I guess, nearly as much because he was not the reason you guys lost to the Eagles last time. He was what gave you guys a chance outside of him stepping out of bounds early. I think
if he keeps his big toe in bounds this time,
Yep.
it'll be good.
I think that was one of my biggest takeaways was Dak is the MVP, but the Seahawks, they got a tough schedule, but I think they're going to be a tough out for some of these teams. 49ers, Seahawks, NFC West battle. I don't see that being a blowout. Maybe it is, to definitely be wrong, but I think the Seahawks are going to play them tough. They're going to play the Eagles tough. It's going to be, they may go 0-2, but they're still a solid team, especially in the NFC. It's just schedule is going to get better of them here down the stretch.
Yeah, I could see them giving the Eagles more of a run for their money than the Niners.
Probably.
Mostly just because the Niners know what's coming, and they know how to push them around. And I think we can all probably agree that the Niners are the best team in the league right now, even though they don't have the best record. The kind of offense that the Seahawks can do, and that we saw in the Thursday night game, the passing attack, that's the same kind of offense that can take advantage of the Eagles' defense. So, I think the Seahawks have a chance to win that game. Like you said, though, it's going to be tough for them. They're going to give it their best. Like I said earlier, they have to try their best. Otherwise, they're pretty much eliminated if they can't pick up one of these games. With the Packers kind of resurgence, we'll get to that later. See whatever the heck the Vikings are doing. Who else is in right now?
The Rams.
The Rams. Yep.
Who just came off of a big win.
So great game by the Seahawks.
It was just a great game in general.
Yeah, best Thursday night game by far. Probably best Thursday night game in a long time. I mean, you'd have to look back to the last season. I'm not even sure.
I don't remember.
None of them ring a bell. I mean, I don't expect the random Thursday night game to be that memorable unless, your team's playing in it. So, but definitely this season, best Thursday night game.
Also, I'd like to throw in, we should do Throwback Thursdays for every Thursday night football game. Those Seahawks uniforms, I love those. Those were absolutely beautiful. So
I do like them.
NFL
Steelers bringing back the yellow end zones for this week. Even though it's Color Rush, not quite a throwback jersey, but will be cool nonetheless.
Throwback to the Color Rush days.
The Color Rush days were nice.
From 2018 or something. It'll be cool. Yeah. Still, we'll get to that. But
yeah. Let's do something for Thursday night football. Let's give Amazon a little bit more than most of the crappy games that they've had. I mean, Seahawks look good. They play good. Not enough to win, but still, it was a beautiful game to watch.
If you didn't know already, that was the most watched Thursday night game of all time.
It makes sense.
On Prime.
Can't say I'm surprised. Is what it is.
I mean, like we talked about.
We're hitting about minute 20 on this game though. Let's move along here.
It was important.
That's fine. That's fine.
Listen, you can cover your game in about 2 minutes. So
I ain't even gonna take that long.
This game is not going to take long at all. If we're moving on, Chargers,
this next one.
Patriots. What a lump of dog crap! This 6-0. This was a baseball score.
The funniest thing about this game was that the Chargers covered the spread, which was 5.5. They scored 6 points and covered. And then another stat that's circling around is the 40 or the not the 49ers, the Patriots have allowed like 42 points in their last 4 games or something like that, and they're 0-4. And the second team who's allowed the next least, the 49ers, they've allowed 49 points and they're 4-0. So it's just like they're not letting up points, but they're not scoring any points. So it doesn't them no good.
Yeah, Patriots are bad. Chargers, this should have been a game where the Chargers scored more than 6 points.
Brandon Staley should not be a coach today, but he is. Still.
I saw
every week we call for his job, and every week we come back and he still has a job.
What do they play this week?
Crazy.
I don't know. We would know.
I would know if
Dylan
Dillon would do the pick'ems for us.
Relax. I got the NFL app pulled up. I'll figure it out. I'll do them tomorrow. It's just been a bad week to be Dylan and football fan. The Chargers, if they got the Broncos at home, so
Oh, maybe it's this week. I saw somewhere that Brandon Staley should have been the first coach fired in the middle of the season after getting a win. Like, that's how this atrocious.
He should have been fired a year ago.
Should have been. I think we've already spent too much time on that game. So let's go to Lions and Saints. Lions.
Good game.
It looked like it was going to be a blowout.
It did.
Yeah,
It was
Saints made it
like
interesting
21
late.
nothing or
battling
something.
until Winston went in the game, and then they kept pulling Taysom Hill. The announcers and everything I saw about this game kept saying that Taysom Hill should have been the QB, but they kept pulling him to put Winston back in, and then he would mess up. People would get mad.
Taysom Hill had
Yeah,
13
the
carries for
crowd
59
apparently wants
yards.
Taysom Hill. When Taysom Hill comes in the game, they cheer. Someone was telling me that when Taysom Hill comes off the field and Derek Carr comes on the field, they boo. They boo very loudly. So
Taysom Hill is one that he's a top 10 tight end in fantasy.
yes,
Yeah, because he gets passing yards.
He gets passing yards.
Yeah,
They use him.
of course he is.
It's phenomenal.
it's the most obvious thing of all time when Taysom Hill comes in the game.
Yeah,
But yet he still just gets.
yeah. So
5 yards at least.
everyone knows what's coming, and he's gonna grind it out. That's what he's gonna do. He's a grinder.
Yeah.
Lunch pail guy.
But yeah, the Lions almost blew it. I thought it was going to be a blowout. Like I said, I think it was at least 14-0. I think he got up to 21-0 if I'm remembering correctly.
It was 21-0 after the first quarter.
Yeah. I don't know what happened on the defense there, but Saints started to come back, but couldn't do enough.
Also, I do want to shout out Sam Laporta, who has just been balling out. He should be, if it weren't for C.J. Stroud, I think Sam Laporta would have a real shot at Offensive Rookie of the Year, just the way he's been playing. He's been extremely reliable. Those Iowa tight ends are always going to stand out, it seems like. And 9 catches, a $140, and a touchdown. He just finds ways to get open, and
It
finds
seemed
ways
like
to
he's
score.
always wide open.
Yeah.
Every time you look up at a Lions game, it's just Sam Laporta just wide open for some reason, just running.
But I think he needs some. If it weren't for Stroud, I think he'd get some serious consideration for Offensive Rookie of the Year the way he's been playing.
Yeah, I think he'd be up there at least. I can't think of anyone else right now who.
Really can't. There's not a lot of rookies.
Jordan Addison.
Yeah.
Zay Flowers.
Jordan
I
Addison.
don't think over Laporta though. I think Laporta.
I'd have to
Maybe
see the
Flowers,
numbers.
Tank Dell.
I'd have to see the numbers to really see it. Tank
If
Dell.
you're taking Stroud
yeah.
out of it, though, I guess you're taking Dell
Right.
out of it. And he's injured
Yeah.
now. So.
And then we're just in
Sad.
imaginary land where there's no players. So
Yeah.
probably the running backs, perhaps.
If no other rookies existed,
You'd be up there.
Also,
yeah.
Bryce Young.
Also, it seems like Jamison Williams is starting to come. I mean, he only had 1 catch, but early on in
He
his
had that
Don't
weird
sound like
little, I
coming
don't know
alive
if it was
to
a
me.
catch or if it was like a reverse or jet sweep or something.
he had a carry for 19 yards and a touchdown. Or that. Carry
Yeah,
for
he
a
was
touchdown.
blazing on that. So
It seems
if
like
they can
he's
find
a-
ways to
He's a fast
to
man.
take advantage of
Yeah.
his speed, which is what they drafted him for. I don't think
Yeah.
they drafted him because he's a
They drafted him because, you can gamble on those 50-50 balls with him and just send it down the field. That's kind of his
Yeah.
specialty is.
if he just runs past the defense. I mean,
And he's been catching, it seems like he's been catching the ball a little bit more when they're thrown in his direction. That was kind of his issues early on was the drops, and you couldn't rely on him. And now, again, he only had 1 catch in this game, but it seems like things are starting to click a little bit more, which just makes the Lions even more dangerous. With him, Laporta, Amon-Ra, I mean, it's got some solid weapons there. And then the running backs that they have.
yeah, I mean their offense has always been good. It's the defense that's questionable.
Yep.
And I say offense has always been good, but they got embarrassed by the Ravens, but it happens.
Everyone has a clunker at one point or another.
Yeah, it happens. But the defense, and like we saw with this game, I mean, the offense comes out, puts up 21 points in the first quarter. Maybe you say, okay, where was that the rest of the game? They only scored, what they finished with,
33, I think.
33. So, but the defense, what's up? 28 to the Saints, mostly bad.
They were leading 24-7 at half. So the second half, it was just the Saints starting to come back. Things changed a little bit.
Yeah.
The injury to Carr definitely played a role. Because Jameis, he's risky. He's willing to just chuck that thing. Granted, he only had 5 passes.
His first throw was one of the most Jameis completions of all time. It bounced.
It did.
Bounced off a Lion defender's hand and landed in Olave's arms. Should have been an interception if it wasn't tipped, but it was tipped right to Olave completion.
Yeah, and if he didn't tip it, if Brian Branch didn't tip it, the other guy was like going to take that to the house. And Brian Branch tipped it over his teammate into Olave's hands. Yeah, 100% Winston throw right there.
Is that it for that game?
I think so, Gill. It's your time. Take it away. You got this.
All right.
It's going to be fun.
Dillon mentioned clunkers earlier. This was definitely a clunker. This was just, again, ugly, Big Ten
West one
style.
clunker, though.
Yeah, this was an entire 60 minutes of being
No, we're Jets have a clunker every week is where we're getting at with that one. But
yes. Jets,
Anyway.
Their defense seems to be the scoring leader for them. It's not very often that you can only give up 13 points a game and lose. 13-8 was the final.
You'd be surprised.
I think, dating back to last year, I don't remember the actual numbers on this, but if you go back to last year, the Jets would have a winning record, and I don't think it would really be close if they scored the league average amount of points. If they scored 20 or 21 points a game, they'd have a winning record. They just do not score points. They don't get in the end zone, which is a problem. They have more safeties in the first quarter than touchdowns. Disgusting, gross.
That's crazy.
It is. You cannot. This team relies too much on their defense, which is an issue. The defense's job is to defend the end zone, not get into the end zone. You appreciate it when they do get into the end zone, but that's not what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to prevent the other team from getting in so that you yourself can get in. The Jets just haven't figured out that second part yet. Wide receivers getting wide open. What's up?
I'm going to cut you off, and I'm going to pose this question instead, or topic. Instead of covering this game, which, it might put some people to sleep, can you talk about the Zach Wilson situation, the Robert Saleh situation, and, a little bit more of kind of big picture stuff?
Yeah, I was going to. That was kind of, I didn't want to spend too much time on the game because there's not much, because it's ugly. The elephant in the room right now is Zach Wilson. Whenever I think of Zach Wilson, I think of Michael Scott, snip, snap, snip, snap, because they keep going back to him, they keep cutting him, they keep going back to him, we're benching him, demoting him.
Is Robert Saleh Jan in this situation?
Yeah.
Okay.
Would be.
All right.
Because he's the one that keeps benching him and putting him back in, and benching him and putting him back in. It's tough. How true that is, there's got to be some legitimacy behind it, because in order for a reporter or reporters to run with something like that, which if you don't know what we're talking about, the report came out Monday that the Jets wanted to go back to Zach Wilson, which they've announced today that they are going to go back to Zach Wilson as a starter for this week against the Texans, but he was reluctant to play, which just sounds bad on the surface. Because if you don't want to play, why are you here? Which Saleh said when he was asked about that during his press conference. I waited, I think it was like half hour after it was supposed to start. He said, if players don't want to play, they won't be here. That's plain and simple. I think the reluctancy is the fact that he keeps getting called. He's the fall guy. he's being asked to be the fall guy, which I'm not saying he's good. I'm not saying, but I've also said multiple times in the last couple of weeks, the issues weren't all Zach. And one of the saddest but also funniest things I've heard a coach say, not verbatim, was, we were looking for a spark, so we went with Tim Boyle. That's hilarious.
Wait, quite the spark.
Quite the spark.
Sparked the TNT, blew up the team, imploded.
But Zach Wilson not wanting to play. He's in a no-win situation. He goes out there, he plays like crap, he's booed. If he goes out there, he plays well, he's going to get booed because at this point, Jets fans are starting to look at draft position. Because that's where we're at now. On the 6th day of December, is we're looking at draft position with 5 games left on a 5-game losing streak. So why is it fair to him?
That was a 5-game losing.
Yep, we're on a 5-game losing, where the Jets are on a 5-game losing streak. Why is it fair to him to keep being asked to be the savior for a game or two when he's also being given all the blame? But from the team's perspective and the other 31 teams' perspectives, it's like, why would I employ a kid who doesn't even want to get out there on the field and play? I think the biggest issue with all this is that there are huge leaks coming out of the New York Jets right now. And every team, there's some leaks, but when the leaks keep getting... When you keep getting more and more leaks, eventually, it's going to explode. And that's where I think this is going. I think at some point...
Rat.
That's his suspicion right now. He was a rat, and that's why he got cut.
All right.
What does anybody else, like Aaron Rodgers was saying, what do you have to gain by saying something like that? And by the way, no one has said that Zach Wilson did not say that. They've just said
That's
that.
what I was thinking when you were telling the story. Like, even Rodgers on the McAfee show, he didn't say that Zach
didn't say that. No.
He just said, like, the stuff, like, he said winning programs don't have, like, these kind of leaks and stuff.
They don't
like
have
that.
these kind of leaks.
He
No
didn't
one's really
say
said
that was a false narrative.
No one's really said it's a false narrative.
No, he said it leaked. He said it leaked.
Yes.
He called it a leak. That means true.
I think a lot of this goes back to coaching and just the way they've handled the quarterback situation in general. You asked about long-term. It doesn't look good for the guys there. It does. I don't know if the Jets win another game. Or if they do, my prediction right now is they're going to win. They're going to lose the next 4 games. They're going to go into Foxborough week 18. And that game is going to be for whoever gets the second overall pick. And that would be the game that the Jets win. Where it gets them out of that second overall pick and it puts the Patriots in a spot to draft their next quarterback. So
don't do that. Please lose. For the good of the Jets. Please.
Sign back Tim Boyle.
So Joe Douglas is 24-54 in his time with the Jets. That first season needs an asterisk next to it, where they went 7-9. The best record the Jets have had in Joe Douglas's reign, 7-9. His first year there, he did not build that team. Mike McCagnon drafted that team, signed those free agents, and then Joe Douglas came in June. So the best season that he's had as a general manager, he came in after the offseason was already done. So how much credit can you really give him? He hasn't. So 24-54, and then Robert Saleh, 15-31. And I don't remember if one of those wins was actually Ron Middleton's or not, because there was a game where Saleh was out with COVID. So I don't know if one of those wins was credited to him or not. Either way, it's not great. So what have these two guys proven? When have these two guys proven that they can win or build a winning program? The argument is going to be, well, you have Aaron Rodgers coming back next year. I'm sorry, if you finish the year 1-9 or 0-10, that is, I don't care who is coming back next year at quarterback. You aren't building winning products on the field. And it's going to cost people their jobs. It probably should cost people their jobs. It's just whose jobs does it cost? And if you're going to, okay, well, Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh and everybody can come back, and this is just kind of a wash kind of year because Aaron Rodgers is going to be here next year. What are you going to do in 2025 when Aaron Rodgers goes 9-8, They go make the playoffs, maybe win a playoff game in 2024, maybe, and then Rodgers retires. Are you then going to say, you know what? You guys never build a winning program before Rodgers got on the field, but we're going to trust you after Rodgers leaves to build a winning program then? And then how long are you going to stick with these guys if they do make the playoffs for the first time in 13, 14 years? But they still are not good at their jobs. Every passing day, I become more and more, Joe Douglas is not a good general manager. He has 4 good draft picks or 1 good draft class. His free agency signings are not good. His drafting overall is not good. And Robert Saleh, he's a great defensive coach. He's a good leader. He's got a lot of the hoorah type of those mantras that get you fired up. But when it comes to game planning, I don't know what is a game plan? There isn't one. The coaching, instead of coaching to win, he coaches not to lose. That doesn't work in the NFL, especially in New York when you have all the spotlight on you. And the Jets have become one of the most penalized teams in the league, and a lot of pre-snap penalties, a lot of false starts, jumping off sides, a lot of stuff that is coached or coachable. I don't think Robert Saleh and Joe Douglas are here next year, which then opens the floodgates on what other changes are going to be made from top to bottom. They have not built a winning product. They brought in Aaron Rodgers and said, you know what, we don't need anything else. When that was blatantly false. How many times have I complained about, even after Rodgers was signed and before, that the Jets needed more weapons? I was called selfish.
Cam called you greedy. Cam called you greedy
That's
for that.
what it was. For wanting more weapons. The Aaron Rodgers
called you
injury,
greedy for wanting a washed-up 33-year-old Odell Beckham Jr.
or DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah.
The Aaron Rodgers injury has only magnified the problems that the Jets have, or the offensive line issues. Everybody knew the Jets wanted an offensive tackle. And then the Steelers jumped them to take Broderick Jones, and it's like, whoa, what are we going to do? Wait, we were not planning for this. Even though 31 other teams knew exactly what we wanted to do.
They denied it, but they were.
The Jets
and Broderick's
don't have
a dog,
a plan.
by the way, in case you were curious.
Nice. I'm happy for you guys. That was a good pick for you guys. I was happy for you then, and
thank you.
A little bummed for myself,
Thank
but
you.
It is what it is. I don't think... That's why I posed a question the other day to you guys. What is the over-under on how long this playoff drought lasts? 15 years. This is going to be year number 13.
Over.
I'm betting the over. I don't think the Jets make it next year.
I mean, it's just if Rodgers comes back, if Rodgers was here this year, the Jets would be in the playoffs. And so, the thinking is, why does that make next year any different? But obviously, there's a lot of variables in that. Can you trust
a 40-year-old quarterback coming from an Achilles injury?
Probably
and yes,
not.
He's doing it in record time. But
well, he says he is, but
he's trying to. It's not going to happen. I never bought into it, and the Jets continue to lose.
The problem I see here is it's this QB carousel, right? We've seen how many other QBs go down this year.
Thank you.
The Colts, obviously now, the Steelers, the Jags,
Vikings.
the Bengals, the Vikings. Like, it's been one of those years, like whatever the stat is, Drew, you said it the other day, like 4 of the 7 AFC playoff teams are going to be starting backups this week if Lawrence doesn't play. And it's like, those teams have shown signs of the ability to have success, even with the backup QB in there. Granted, there's a couple of exceptions to that. Not all of them are perfect, but Browns, Browning threw 350 on Monday night. Gardner Minshew, probably one of the best backups in the league, obviously has the Colts in a playoff spot. There's tons of backup QB talent in the league, and the fact that the Jets had a guy that they named the backup that they clearly had no faith in already. Like, there was absolutely zero backup plan. Like, if you were already not comfortable with Zach Wilson playing quarterback, he shouldn't have been your number 2. He should have been your number 3 at the most. And therein lies the problem, regardless of if you planned on that guy even playing at all throughout the season.
That's
But
the issue.
to use
That
as an
should have been
excuse,
the third quarterback, emergency quarterback, like
Exactly.
Trey Lance is.
Right.
Because Trey Lance, he gets to be with the team, but he doesn't play unless like it is an emergency. That new rule in effect this year that you can carry a third quarterback, and in case of emergency, they can play. That's all Zach should have been.
Exactly. And they kept calling this a redshirt season. Well, redshirt season doesn't mean that you're the next in line to play. Like, I was talking with my brother earlier, like, they should have... Well, Rodgers was supposed to be the guy. Yeah, but he's 39 years old. At some point, he's probably going to get hurt.
yeah. And the
The
fact
chance
that
of
your
him-
backup plan, sorry to interrupt you, Gil. The fact that
No,
your
you're good.
backup plan, once you went to Zach Wilson, then you pulled the plug on him after a couple weeks. You go to Tim Boyle, and now Tim Boyle's not even on the team. Why was he on the team to begin with if you were going to play him for 2 games and then cut the guy? Why was he even here?
No,
Why was he with the team all along?
He's a rat, but
Right.
The
Probably some of the
way
worst
the
college
Jets-
stats I've ever seen, too.
The way the Jets have handled quarterback in general is a fireable offense. The way they've mismanaged the most important position in sports. Like you've mentioned, how many backups have performed well this year? Zach was supposed to just be a redshirt kind of guy, but they never the Jets literally signed or traded for Aaron Rodgers and said, "We are done. This is it. We are good." They didn't make any significant moves. Teddy Bridgewater wasn't signed until training camp. He was still out there. Why didn't you go after him? Why didn't you try retaining a Mike White from last year who some of the staff, some of the players already know and have a relationship with? The way they handle quarterback blows my mind. It's a fire. That alone should be a fireable offense.
I think you're right, and this will be the last thing I say on this. We spent some pretty good time with the Jets. I think you're right that obviously the quarterback situation was mishandled, and it's probably a fireable offense under normal circumstances. However, I think it would be a mistake to fire Douglas and Saleh with Rodgers having limited time left with the organization. I think
but
you just gotta fingers crossed, hope that he is the Band-Aid, and then once he's gone, then you have to tear it down again.
Because once he's gone, let's say that theory plays out. You had mentioned it earlier, Gil. Then he retires. You're in a rebuild mode for this roster. That's when you gut the cupboards. You bring in a whole new regime, and they try to take the Jets and end the playoff drought and yada yada yada. They try to move on. If you bring in a new regime where your Jets window is it's a window. It's 1 year though. It's once Rodgers is gone, and right now there's no backup plan. Now, could you create a backup plan if you take a guy like, let's say the Jets end up with a top 10 pick, and you take a guy like Penix or whatever, and he gets to sit a year behind Rodgers. You take the Jordan Love route, and he sits the whole year behind Rodgers with a new regime who doesn't try to change too much. Then you can set your next, the next regime will set themselves up, whoever's in charge at that point, with some sort of building block.
Yeah. My fear with the whole,
it's a $1 billion question is what it comes down to.
My problem with, you could just, tear the cupboard down after Rodgers leaves. In that scenario, you're probably thanking the Jets and their playoff drought. So how long are you going to hold on to these guys just because they ended a 15-year playoff drought after Rodgers leaves? When it's clear, if it becomes clear, like it's starting to become clear for me, they're not good enough. So that's where I start having concerns. And if it comes down to, we are going to have to keep Robert Saleh and Joe Douglas for 5 years because Aaron Rodgers is going to be here next year. Or get rid of them and maybe trade Aaron Rodgers. That's something I think you'd have to consider at that point. If the Jets offensively are not good enough, at some point it's going to have to be rebuilt. This entire team is probably going to have to be rebuilt. And I don't know if it's good enough to compete next year with what they have and the limited resources that they have too, which is my concern.
Gil, you already said it yourself, and I'm breaking my promise earlier. I said I wouldn't say anymore, but you said earlier an average offense gets you a winning record.
The
I
defense is
think
good
with
enough.
Rodgers, you have at minimum an average offense.
Probably do.
And going along with that, I think it's very easy to see. We'll see what happens next year, but I think it'll be very easy to see what the reason is for the Jets making the playoffs. I mean, if you go into next year and basically your main change is just having Aaron Rodgers at quarterback, then there's no way for Saleh and Joe Douglas to hide behind the playoff, berth. It's like it's largely the same team. The only difference is Aaron Rodgers carried you guys to the playoffs. Okay, now he's gone. You guys are also gone. We need to start fresh.
I've said
I don't
before.
know. I think keep him, and then when Rodgers is gone, that's when you look to make change. It's too late to make change now, in my eyes.
I said it before. I'll say it again. Whatever the right thing to do is, the Jets will do the wrong thing until I'm proven otherwise. I don't have faith in them, but I don't believe in Joe Douglas, and I don't believe in Robert Saleh at this point. And what that means for the future, I don't know. Because even the offensive staff that Robert Saleh built, yeah, he brought in Nathaniel Hackett because he was Rodgers' buddy, but the rest of the offensive staff that he's built is not good either. There's a lot of questionable things that Saleh's done, and outside of Aaron Rodgers being on the roster, there's not a good enough reason to keep them. Like I think Matt Millen, the Lions' old general manager, is the only other general manager that's had a job this long and has been as bad, like record-wise, as Joe Douglas has. That's not good territory to be in. I don't trust him, but
an
how
old
long?
general manager?
Long time. Early 2000s. I think he was the
Okay.
GM that went 0-16.
I was going to say, that's not their GM now.
No.
Old GM.
It's
old GM.
Whatever the right thing is, they'll do the wrong thing. All right, Dillon. Speaking of the wrong thing, we all took the wrong team this week. Cardinals get the upset
Gonna
victory
let us
over
down.
the Steelers.
It's copyrighted.
It might be copyrighted. Hold on.
We can still hear it. Turn it down
It's
until it gets to the right spot.
It's in the arms of the angel. That's what I was
Just
trying to
sing
get
it. Sing
to.
it. Sing it for us real quick.
Arms of the angel. That's Kenny Pickett. That's where Kenny's at right now. We're praying for him. We hope he comes back. So let's get into it. Really sad. Couldn't be worse timing for Kenny's poor ankle to explode into a billion pieces. Came off the game where he diced up the Bengals, first game of all those yards. Came out with the Cardinals, drove right down the field, was dicing them up. Started the game like 7 for 10, like almost 100 yards or something. Third and goal, drops back to pass. He has Calvin Austin on the left-hand side for a walk-in touchdown, but that's not the read of the play. He sees the opportunity to run and gets his ankle crushed into dust and powder. And then once Trubisky goes into the game, talk about bad backup quarterbacks, man. Once Trubisky goes into the game, it's an automatic L every single time. I've never seen Trubisky win a game in a Steelers uniform, I don't think. I think when he was the starter last year, I believe the Steelers started 0-4. I could be wrong. They were either 0-4 or 1-3. They might have won one game with him, but
I remember being there when he was benched.
Yeah. And, once the game got going, the rain is the ultimate equalizer, especially 2 rain delays. The Cardinals just wanted it more, plain and simple. The Steelers could not
get pushed around in the rain by a team from Arizona.
I don't care, man, because we're on our linebacker 4 and 5 string at the moment at inside linebacker. That doesn't help you very often when you're on inside linebackers 4 and 5. But regardless, the problem here is that Tomlin has one of these clunkers every single year. We just talked about clunkers, but Tomlin has his yearly trap game where he loses to a terrible team. Most of the time it is a team from the West Coast. It's usually Oakland or I guess Vegas, but I guess this time it was Arizona. Kyler looked so bad, and then all of a sudden all they did was just throw it to Trey McBride every single play because he was covered by our 5th string inside linebacker and he was open. Long story short, Steelers lose this game, but the story is, Kenny's ankle exploding, and it's just so sad because, again, he was looking so good once Matt Canada was gone, and then it just went to crap. Steelers play calling in this one could have been a lot better. They had multiple times. I mean, in the beginning of that game, they were blowing the Cardinals off the ball. I mean, just 7 yards, 7 yards, 7 yards, and then they'd get to 2nd and 3, and they'd run some play action crap, and no one would be open. And then they stopped running the ball after they were getting 8 yards a pop. But nonetheless, they lose this game, so now they're 7 and 5. Didn't lose any ground in the playoffs, still the 5th seed, but their playoff chances went from 83 to 53, which is quite the drop. Mainly because you got Trubisky under center for the next at least 2 games. Those 2 games being the Patriots this week on Thursday. That game's going to be 3-0. I'm not going to tell you who has 3. I don't know. And then you got the Colts, who seem to be on fire, and Minshew is dicing up everybody right now. So, now you're looking at this thing like you needed to beat the Cardinals. I mean, you needed to beat the 2-10 Cardinals to just not even worry about needing help from other people. But every single year, Tomlin has a game where the team is not ready. And the amount of players after the game that said, we kind of took Arizona lightly. It's like, you shouldn't be saying that in the NFL. You get paid to play every week. They started to read their own headlines after the Bengals game. They thought the offense was sick. They thought they were back. And then they just go let up they put out one of the worst performances I've seen from that team. Some other bad performances, again, against the Raiders, and they've had a couple of real bad ones against the Jets in the past, too. A couple of Michael Vick Jets teams taking it to them when they should not have. But nonetheless, don't watch this game on Thursday. Don't watch the Steelers if Trubisky is under center. We're paying Trubisky, by the way, $8 million a year right now, which is pretty high. They did give him that contract thinking he was going to be the starter for a year. But they decided not to do anything with that contract and just keep him around as the backup. I think he's way overpaid. He's not good. And the amount of pundits, man, they forget so quick. I feel like when a couple years ago, Dak, he would play great and then, he'd get hurt or whatever. He'd have one bad game and all of a sudden it's like Dak sucks. That's what it feels like. Yes, Kenny has had a shitty season, absolutely, leading up to this point. Bengals game, he diced, though. The beginning of that Cardinals game, he diced. He gets hurt, and now some analysts are saying, the offense may actually have some more playmaking now that Trubisky's under center. It's like, have you been watching? Have you watched a single game of Trubisky? I promise you, he is not the MVP anymore. He's not that guy. He's not 2018 Nickelodeon Bears. He's not. He's been bad for 5 years now. And now Najee's questionable for this game. Popped up on the injury report with a knee injury. Did not practice on Wednesday. Probably not going to play. So the Najee haters are going to get their dose of Jalen Warren as the lead guy, and they're going to see that he's going to get the Tony Pollard effect. Once he's the number one, he's all of a sudden not going to be explosive, and he's going to have 4 yards a carry, maybe. But should see some Anthony McFarland in this one then too. That's actually kind of exciting because he's also explosive and a really good. He's a good. Running backs are fungible. It doesn't matter what your name is. You got pop. If you got
really
juice.
Excited to watch Anthony McFarland versus the Patriots.
No,
really.
Listen, he may house one.
Gassing it up.
He may house one. I won't be watching. I can guarantee you that much. I am taking.
I look at the box score and be like, yeah, look at Anthony McFarland. He went sicko.
Dude, it's like a preseason game. It's like watching a preseason game. I'm going to see Trubisky hand it off to Anthony McFarland, throwing it to Connor Hayward. and the Steelers' 5th and 6th string inside linebackers trying to stop Zeke and Bailey Zappi. I mean, it's a freaking preseason game in Week 14 of the NFL. Do not
Speaking
watch
of
this game.
fun Arizona Cardinals fact for us here, including preseason, the Cardinals have beat 3 out of the 4 of our teams. So that's pretty sad.
That is tough. There is. I have.
At least you're not part of the group here that has a loss to the Cardinals.
Hey, I will say, you guys all have winning records. So
it's true. The Steelers are just a winning version of the Jets at this point, with their backup quarterback.
You guys are the Iowa Hawkeyes. You guys
we are.
dress like them. You guys play like them.
There is.
At least the Steelers can score some points.
Yeah, they can, and they can win. They're just a winning version of the Jets. But the problem is now you got Trubisky under center, and that just like ruins the whole vibe. If Kenny doesn't get hurt, Steelers win this game, plain and simple. But he does offense. And here's was the real turning point. It was 3-0, 4th and goal. Steelers run a QB sneak with Trubisky, who's not as good as QB sneaks as Kenny. Kenny's actually like really good at QB sneaks. He's like the Tom Brady type stat line where he was like 16 of 17 on like 3rd and goal, 3rd and short, 4th and short with QB sneaks. And they get stopped. So then it's instead of being 10-0, it's still 3-0. Cardinals go 99 yards in the rain to score. When they score, you get a rain delay. So then there's like no answering back quickly. All of a sudden, everyone goes into the locker room. You come back out. The offense goes 3 and out. Cardinals like score again, 17-3, and then it's another rain delay. It's like anytime the Cardinals would score, they would just send Steelers into the locker room. It's like they scored going into a halftime break 3 separate times. It's just deflating of all energy. It sucks. And then they try to go out and they lose. Here's just a fantastic stat that is just depressing. Let me find it. So the last time in weeks, hold on. It's a really tough stat about the Steelers losing to teams with terrible records late in the season. They're horrible against whatever. I don't know. I can't find the stat right now. It's fine. But they're like horrible against bad teams. They're horrible against bad teams late in the season. They're horrible. They can't beat them. And we're playing another one on Thursday. But again, I am not going to watch Thursday. I'm not doing it. I might, but I'm not. I don't want to. And here's what's going to happen. I'm not even thinking. I'm not worrying. Clearly, you guys know I'm not thinking about football because I have not done the pick'ems yet, and it's Wednesday night. We're going to get through the next 2 weeks, okay, of Trubisky. Or maybe it's 3. I'm going until Kenny Pickett returns to the lineup. I'm not focusing on the Steelers. And when he does return, if the Steelers are somehow still in a wild card spot and they're still, Trubisky, you're the backup for a reason, buddy. Go beat the 2-10 Patriots, please. And if you can just bridge long enough for Kenny to return, I will have hope. I will be ready for a playoff push, and I will be excited. But if Kenny doesn't return in time or whatever, the Steelers lose on Thursday, I'm done. I said this already. I said I was done when Kenny got hurt, and then I don't know how many times I said the word done, but I said it a bunch. It's fine. I'm just taking a 2-week leave of Steelersness, and we're just going to see where this goes. We're going to see if the defense is good enough to keep them hanging around. We're going to see if the running game – they're going to have to lean on the running game. It's just so unfortunate that now Najee's hurt too. It's like, dang it, man. The one thing we could lean on, now we have a dude that's 5'10" as our starting running back. Like I don't think you can lean on it as much, but we'll see. Jalen Warren's going to get the ball a lot. McFarland should get the ball. And Trubisky's going to throw a couple interceptions because he just yeets it downfield. And I'm so done with Deontay Johnson, dude. I'm done with this guy. You sent me the TikTok Drew did of all the times he's dropped touchdowns and whatnot. And with him celebrating in the end zone down 24-10, it's just like, dude, come on, get over yourself. I'm just tired of his antics. I want him to go. George Pickens was doing better when Deontay was out anyways. Pickens was putting up numbers when Deontay was out. Draft another wide receiver. You're really good at drafting wide receivers, so get rid of Deontay and draft another one at this point. And yeah, I've spent too long talking about the Steelers already tonight, so I don't want to waste too much more time. But at this point,
Welcome
it's
to hell.
just we're just praying for Kenny's return, hoping Trubisky can beat the 2-10 Patriots, hoping Colts and Browns and some things and Broncos lose to just give you a couple more spots, because your remaining games after that, you got Colts, you got the Seahawks, you got the Ravens, and you got the Bengals. It's not in that order, but those are your 4 remaining teams after the Patriots. Going into the Cardinals game, you could have lost 2. But the Cardinals was not one of those 2 that they were supposed to lose to. So, now it gets tricky. But I regress. In the arms of the angel, Kenny Pickett, please come back and stunt on the haters like Dakota Prescott has done in the past. I'm looking to you for some inspiration, Mr. Prescott. Show my boy the way. Show my boy how to silence the haters. That's it.
Drew, how does it feel out of all of us in this chat that he got favorite?
Trust me, man. I've had my own hardships, and we're not out of the way of that yet. But as it stands right now, yeah, it's pretty good. We'll see. We'll see if I gain some favor this year.
All right, can you? Sorry, didn't mean to cut you off, but I just got a million things running in my mind, including Dillon. Could you give us a preview of who you're taking this week? It seems like you're leaning one way. I just want to hear you say, who do you got tonight? I guess as this is being published.
Listen,
the game that you're not
I will be picking the Steelers because I will never lose faith. I will have blind faith for the rest of my life. And I will get this pick wrong. But I will never, ever, ever give up on my Pittsburgh Steelers. That is the one thing.
6-point favorites in this.
Which they were against the Cardinals too, so that doesn't really matter to me. But
there you go, score 6.
There are some other 6-0, man, 6-0. There are some other people that easily give up on their teams, say they suck. I'll shit on my team all the time, but Steelers till I die, man. That part doesn't matter. Doesn't matter who's under QB.
Yeah,
but they will lose this game. They would lose this game though. I've seen too many Super Bowls to be mad by my team.
Fair enough. I think my brother gave the score of 5-3. I think is what my brother said. The Steelers were gonna. That's how it was gonna.
Oh man, no. Listen, I think if the Steelers put up like 13, and I think you'll win the game. But it's gonna be a struggle to get there. You just get like a couple deep balls to Georgie, and do it. That's gonna be the way. So
we've got a lot of games still. Let's see if we can get rolling.
Spent a lot of time.
Well, that was our 3 out of the way, right? Now we can fly through some of these that don't really matter. So we just had them all at the beginning.
Like you mentioned the Colts a couple times. They went to Tennessee. I got an overtime win. That was gorgeous.
I was praying so hard that the Titans would just put them away, and I saw the update that the Colts won, and it just made me so sad because again, the Colts are one of the teams. Going against the Steelers here for that wild card spot, because there's now 4 teams that are tied at 7-5 for the 3 wild card spots, and then there's a bunch of teams that are 6-6. So very tight race. Very sad that the Colts won. Colts are a good team, and I was pulling for the Titans hard, but the Titans are worthless.
Derrick Henry getting hurt definitely.
Derrick Henry getting hurt sucks. Spears is good though. He's shifty. Dude makes people miss, even though he's still got no knee, I think. Yeah, he's got no ACL, but he's fine. Just tough that Tennessee could not pull this one out for him. It would have been a nice win for that team at home.
I think that's 2 overtime victories.
Will Levis, truck stick.
Yeah.
Will Levis, interception, truck stick, forced fumble recovery.
Dog.
Touchdown. That part didn't hold up, but I think the rest of it did.
Yeah.
So
Michael Pittman
balling
out.
That counts for anything, but it looked cool.
The Colts are going to be an interesting team. Like, this is going to be an interesting division for the next couple of years, I think, in general.
This week for the Colts will be interesting because if they lose to the Bengals, that puts the Bengals right back in the mix too.
Yeah, it does.
It does.
Dude,
So,
but like the Bengals shouldn't, right? Like they shouldn't.
They shouldn't.
I
But
don't know.
Shouldn't.
They shouldn't beat the Jags either.
shouldn't. And we'll get to
And
that.
then Jake Browning turned into the best quarterback in the AFC North. So
Jake Browning turned into 2021 Patrick Mahomes out of nowhere.
Jake Browning
Okay,
had
all right.
his Mike White moment. That's what he had. He had his Mike White moment. And
Good
honestly,
for him, man.
Good for him.
Good for him. You know, just a grinder, going out there. What was his second ever start in the NFL?
I
Good
think
for
so.
him.
Jake Browning has the most high school touchdowns out of any starting quarterback in the NFL.
That's crazy.
He had 91 in high school.
But yeah,
Wow.
great win for the Colts in overtime with Gardner Minshew.
Did you get that from that TikTok that
Mhm.
listed? Okay. Kenny Pickett was 29th on that TikTok.
Wow. Sorry, Gill.
Oh, you're good. Here's a team. So the Jets struggled to score any touchdowns in a game. This team scored 10 touchdowns in a singular game earlier this year. Didn't do it this week, but they did get the win against Washington Commanders. The Miami Dolphins, Tyreek Hill, blazing through this one, getting what was the final 45-15. What's it like scoring points? No idea. 45-15. They were up 17-0 early. Tua is receiving the most Pro Bowl votes right now. Tyreek Hill, he's going to
I
get
forgot to look at that.
he's going to get 2K. He's going to get 2,000 yards this year.
Mhm.
5 catches. 5 catches is all he had, and that's all he needed for a $157 and 2 tutties. They just forgot to cover him. What a game!
Yeah, it was bad. I think this was this Rivera's first game as defensive coordinator, or is this his
If
second
it was, it wasn't a good first outing for him.
game? First, because what's
Jack
his
Del
face
Rio.
got fired
Jack Del
after
Rio.
Thanksgiving, so this would have been his first game. Yeah,
Yeah, it was.
and I was listening to the PFF podcast about this about Week 13 in general, and what they talked about in this game was the Commanders look like a team who haven't played Tyreek Hill before. They played coverage off of a theoretical version of Tyreek Hill. Like in their mind, they're like, "Oh, if we do this,
Which
he'll be
is
covered."
weird because they have Bieniemy who coached Tyreek
He's
Hill.
not.
right?
He's not coordinating the defense.
But like,
No, but you would think
you feel
help,
like
I
he
guess.
would speak up and be like, "That's not how you do it." I
Hey.
feel I don't know.
But still, Tyreek is just a different animal. Like
He is.
he was talking about it in on Twitter or whatever on X afterwards about one of the deep bombs for his touchdown where he wasn't even running the right route. Apparently, he was just he's
I feel like
basically
that's
just
happened
out
a
there
couple
running
times this
around.
year. I think that's happened a couple
And-
times this year.
His
he
routes
catches
are
it.
just squigglies, man. Wherever the
He's-
green
yeah,
grass
he's
is,
just-
he
You
just
he's
take the
goes.
football,
fast.
you take the football, and it's like, hey, do this,
Yeah, he's-
this, this.
He's
Backyard
literally
football.
just
And it's actually
just-
crazy that DK had a faster speed than him on Thursday. That's actually nuts.
Yes.
But straight line versus all
straight line.
directions is a difference.
DK also is massive and has huge
Dude,
strides. That's why in the Olympics you see tall, long runners.
Usain
Not
Bolt.
That's why he
short,
ran.
little Tyreek
That's
guys.
why he ran in that, didn't he? He
think
ran
he
in
He
was
got
a
smoked though in his race.
Yeah, but he was like relative to Olympic track dudes. Anyways, not to circle back to Seattle. Sorry.
But yeah, Tyreek is fast. But the main thing with Tyreek is his acceleration too is insane.
Got
That's
99
why he can just
acceleration.
like like a freaking pinball just bouncing around everywhere. Like he can just change direction immediately and be going 20 miles an hour.
There'll be like 8 dudes surrounding him, and he just beats them all to the corner. It's like
Yeah.
It's that one
That's
dude
insane.
when you're in elementary
He's
school
the
playing
only-
backyard football that you just can't get.
Yeah,
It's
that
the
was
one.
Nanny in 7th grade.
yeah,
So we all caught up to him. But
Pop Warner was doing crazy.
Tyreek should be the only non-quarterback in MVP talks,
Agreed.
I think.
He should be Offensive
I
Player of
think
the Year.
if you take him off the Dolphins, yeah, he's Offensive Player of the Year for sure. I think if you take him off the Dolphins, they're nowhere near as good. I mean, Waddle's fast too. Obviously Mostert and Achane, but Tyreek is just he's
Tyreek
different.
opens and he opens it up for everybody else.
Yeah, I've talked about it before. How what Tyreek should be talked about when you talk about the best wide receivers of all time. Just how he affects the game. I mean, he's not the Moss. He's not going to go up and necessarily catch it on three dudes like Moss, Calvin Johnson, something like that. But the way he just is open almost at all times and can be so dangerous with the ball in his hands just because if he gets the edge, like that's it, he's gone. Like he's just a completely different animal that every team has been trying to find the next version of, and no one has found it yet. So
my buddy Jamal McKinney, who was on over in the summer, he did the NBA episode with us. He's been telling me for years that Tyreek Hill's the best receiver in the league, and it's 2023 before I finally admitted it. He is. He's the best.
Well, did any of them? Did any of us have him in the number one wide receiver conversation this offseason? I don't remember. Obviously, Cam had Jay Jettas. I had AJ Brown.
I think I had Jay Jetta.
So did I.
I don't think any of one of us had him in our top
we were
5
sleep.
that we did.
We were sleep. I was never sleep because I took him in so many first round drafts in fantasy, and he's my first round draft pick in the dynasty team too, carrying me currently to the number 1 seed in the league. But
I think because he's not a traditional wide receiver, he kind of goes under the radar when you think about it.
And people slept on Tua too, and he kind of had a quiet last part of the season. So,
yeah, he was looking good. And it doesn't help when the Commanders, back-to-back games, they've given up 45 points.
That's a lot of points.
45-10 to the Commanders, 45-15 to the Dolphins. The Commanders' defense is trash, and it's going to get Ron Rivera fired at some point. They have the Rams, they have the Jets, 49ers, Cowboys all coming up. They should be able to get at least 1 or 2 wins there. But the 49ers and Cowboys, the last 2 games of the year,
it's a gauntlet, man.
That's going to be
a gauntlet.
That's going to be a lot of points scored on the Commanders, and it doesn't help when.
Depends.
Yeah, it depends on what they're playing for.
If seeding's locked up in Week 18, then it'll be another game where Howell wins, and everyone's like, "Oh my god!"
He throws for 400 yards on the backups, and they're like he's going to be a future MVP next season. Commanders are back.
He's Jameis Winston.
He is.
We spent a lot of time.
Terry McLaurin, dude, what's going on? Scary Terry.
Yeah.
Biggest takeaway: 0 yards.
He was running around. He was getting his cardio in.
Is this a Sam Howell issue, or is this a Scary Terry regression issue, or both?
I don't know. It feels like a Jahan Dotson taking over of the wide receiver room issue for some reason.
Yeah, and Curtis Samuel getting more reps.
There was a stat before Jahan Dotson came back. There was a stat some fantasy dude was talking about it where when Dotson and Scary Terry were on the field at the same time, Scary Terry's stats were like awful. And I was like, I don't know. Scary Terry's going crazy right now, and this was when he was still doing fine, and Dotson was out, but Dotson came back, and it's all of a sudden it's like, you all right, McLaurin?
Well, it's one of those things where like young guys or like backups, what did I just do? I messed up my screen. No, we're good. They're able to build more chemistry because they come in together. They play together in practice, when they're backups or when they're rookies. And so they're able to build a little bit more chemistry. I'm wondering if maybe some of the chemistry wasn't able to be built between Howell and McLaurin, and that's a reason for some of it.
Probably
either way, it feels like McLaurin should be getting some targets and getting active. That seems like something you would want to do.
Speaking of chemistry, CJ Stroud's got chemistry with all of his receivers, seemingly. Tank Dell, especially. I mean, he's now out for the year, which definitely sucks, but...
Is that a fire transition? I think it is.
It might be.
All right.
22-17 for the Texans over the Broncos, though, regardless. Even with the Tank Dell loss, they still... Nico Collins. It took an Ohio State quarterback for a wide receiver from Michigan to, have a good year and to play well. So, I'm going to take my Ohio State Dubs when I can get them at this point. But 9 catches, 191 yards for Nico Collins. No Tank Dell, no worries, I guess. And the Broncos were a team that were coming in hot.
When did Tank Dell get hurt in that game? Like third quarter? I don't remember.
I thought it might have been a little
I was already mad by this point.
Tank Dell isn't even on here.
Tank Dell also got hurt. He got hurt because he was trying to lead block on the goal line.
Yeah. He's not even recorded to have a stat. Tank Dell in this game. No stats for him, so it might have been early.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Hopefully, when he gets back, he's got that speed still. He's broken leg and all that. It's going to take a lot of rehab. So hopefully, he doesn't lose a step this early in his career. And just unfortunate to see. You don't want to see that. So
injuries,
but still good win for Houston, beating a team that's been on fire recently, and stopping their streak. So. Yeah,
it's huge for the playoff hopes.
Yeah. They're on the outside looking in right now at 7-5. They're the 8th seed, even though 5, 6, and 7 are also 7-5. Some weird tiebreakers going on there. But yeah, they definitely have a good chance. Like we said last week, this was a big game to determine that wild card chase, and they put themselves in a lot better spot because of it. So, really good game for them.
And even not just a wild card race, after Monday Night Football,
and the divisional,
they're back in that division race. That seemed like it might have been a little out of reach, but Jacksonville losing Monday night and also losing Trevor Lawrence, which we'll get to. If Houston continues to pile up these wins, seeing as they have the Jets this week, Titans, Browns, Titans, Colts, I think they can win the division, which I don't remember if in the preseason. I know Cam and I said one of the Colts or the Texans could win the division.
Cam said the Colts. Cam said the Colts.
I think we both
laughed at him.
We did. And they're probably going to make the playoffs the way it's looking. Or they're going to be on the outside looking in, so shame on us for that.
Yeah,
I figured one of these two teams would be competing, and I couldn't remember what.
It's looking like those 3 spots are going to come down to, and again, there's a bunch of backup QBs playing. Like the Steelers, the Colts, and the Browns are the 5, 6, and 7, and they're all on backup QBs right now. Granted, Gardner Minshew's probably a starter in this league. He just so happens to be the backup. And then you got the Texans right there, right behind them, and they play the Browns. You had mentioned they play the Browns, so there's a head-to-head matchup right there that will decide that spot.
And they'll play the Colts again.
And they play the Colts again. So those teams are going to kind of beat up on each other a little bit. Plus, the Steelers play the Colts, and yeah, there's going to be a lot of carnage that goes on in those bottom 4 teams. With again, Broncos, Bills, Bengals all lurking 1 game behind at 6-6, and again,
I gotta start
all those
messing
teams
with that playoff predictor thing, that ESPN playoff.
Yeah, there will be so many ors right now. It's insane, but. Yeah, it will be interesting to see. Again, I still think the final 3, granted, I said this when Kenny was not hurt, but Steelers, Colts, Texans feels right. Feels like the Browns are going to lose out because their offense is probably the worst of those 4, and that's a lot. That's saying a lot.
1 win. They played the Jets.
The Browns do? Okay. It's going to take more than 1 win, though. It's going to take more than 1 because right now they're only sitting at 7 wins, and I think it's going to take at least 10 to make it in the wild card. If you get 11 wins, you're sitting pretty, but I think it's going to take at least 10 with some tiebreakers.
Yeah. I think the Broncos could find a way to squeeze in because they play the Chargers twice, Patriots and Raiders still. They play the Lions as well, but I think the Lions might win.
That's a pretty nice schedule to have. If 4 wins would get them to 10-6, 10-7.
And if all 4 of those are against AFC opponents, that helps. They only have 1 NFC team left to
Yeah, the problem right now is the Texans and the Broncos are 1-2 in their division. So they both have losing divisional records, which is one of the higher tiebreakers. And then you're looking at the Steelers, who are 3-1 in division, and the Colts and the Browns are both 3-2 in division. So that definitely hurts the Texans and the Broncos when it comes to tiebreakers.
Speaking of in division, if we're done with that game, do we have anything else to add? Panthers, Buccaneers. Gross.
Meh. It was a game that was on TV.
Uh,
I said some good throws. And then saw some highlights.
Didn't
popped up on Red
he
Zone.
didn't he throw an interception though to lose the game? Pretty sure he did.
I feel like I saw this game on Red Zone more than I did the 49ers Eagles game, which was not how I anticipated this going. I feel like I saw this game on Red Zone quite often.
I can't comment on that.
One of the games was a blowout, and the other one wasn't.
This is true.
This
game
is true.
This was close. This came down to the end. 21-18 was the final. Buccaneers getting a win. Baker playing okay. Rashad White, 20 carries, 84 yards for him. And then Mike Evans, another 1,000-yard year for him. I think he got the most consecutive 1,000-yard seasons out of any wide receiver ever.
Yeah, to start a career, it's like 10 out of 10 or something like that. It's crazy, actually. He's just been consistently good for so long.
And it doesn't matter who's at quarterback for him either.
He's always been in Tampa Bay. Probably earned himself Hall of Fame.
I think he's going to get Hall of Fame.
Probably not first ballot, but he'll get in there.
And that's to consider, too, that he's still got a handful of years left in him where he's probably going to keep accumulating 1,000-yard seasons. He's got a ring. He's got plenty of Pro Bowls, probably. I don't know if he's got any All-Pros, but
he might.
Maybe, maybe. It's hard to get All-Pros.
Second team All-Pro in 16, four-time Pro Bowler, Super Bowl champion, 1,000 yards every year. He's going to make a Hall of Fame. But another good game for him.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Pretty good numbers.
Chuba Hubbard, 104 for him on the ground.
And I am right. Bryce Young threw an interception on 4th and 1 at Carolina's 40. Antoine Winfield to ice the game.
He was just under 50% passing. Panthers
15 of 31 for 178 is not good.
No,
it's not great.
I feel like
52 rating is Kenny don't even put up 52 ratings. QBRs.
I feel like every day something else comes out about the Panthers and just how terrible of an organization it is. So I feel bad for Bryce Young because he's going to be there for at least a couple months.
I don't. Y'all remember when he said, he came from nothing, even though he got $1 million in NIL?
Oh, yeah, I guess.
Yeah, I don't feel bad for that guy.
The situation he is in is quite terrible. Browns, Rams, Stafford getting a win. The Browns. I mean, Joe Flacco had some exciting moments early on, but
Joe Flacco was slinging it, dude. He was just back there, just his first pass. They did a little slow mo, and the spiral on that sucker in slow motion was beautiful.
He throws a nice spiral.
I was like, dude, Browns are gonna win this game, aren't they? But
Jets, Joe Flacco and Elijah Moore were cooking there.
They were. They really were.
Imagine if the Jets had Joe Flacco right now. Where would they be? It's hard to say.
Better spot than they are in now. 3 touchdowns for Stafford.
Puka Nacua.
Yes.
Dude's a dog.
He was cooking until he got hurt.
Yeah, he did get hurt.
Kyron Williams, another good game for him.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Needed it from him.
Stafford just continues to cook. Cooper Kupp had 6 catches, 39 yards, but Puka was definitely...
Cooper Kupp, man, he fell off.
He
can't do anything right in fantasy.
Who would have thought he would have fell off, though, and this dude, Puka Nacua, would have just been a dog? Like, who would have thought that? Who would have thought that?
Did you guys see the chart with every wide receiver drafted after Quentin Johnston and how every wide receiver, like those 10 wide receivers, all have more yards than him? Puka Nacua, of course, being on there is what made me think of that.
No, but that doesn't surprise me because that dude is
Dude,
Brandon
bobbled the
Staley,
catch.
man,
He
why?
bobbled
Why is
one.
Brandon Staley have a job? Whoever made the call on that pick, I don't know, but obviously Staley's voice was a part of it. Oh my gosh! Imagine this offense with
It was a
Jordan Addison in
mistake
it, man.
just from a personnel standpoint.
Which we said at
We
the
touched
time.
on it. Like, he matched what they already had. Of Zay Flowers, Jordan Addison would have been, hindsight is 2020, a better
Puka
pick.
Nacua.
But
Foresight was
personnel
2020,
wise,
bro.
yeah,
Forward looking was 2020.
you already had two, big receivers. You didn't have any, you can count Keenan Allen, I guess, as a route runner, but Zay
He's
Flowers is a
big.
quick, fast route runner. Jordan Addison, is he's not the fastest, but he's still a different
He's a good route
player
runner,
than
though.
what you already had.
He's a really good
And he can
player.
catch the ball. That's the most important thing. Is the other two can catch the ball.
Yeah.
That is important.
Johnson
Jordan
has not
Addison
proved
more
he
than
can do
Zay
that
Flowers,
yet.
but yeah, it's nuts.
Zay, as long as he's not playing the Steelers for some reason.
Yeah, nobody on the Ravens can catch against the Steelers, but anyways. We ball.
A lot of people can catch on the 49ers, though. And
Especially
they were running
that Debo
wild.
guy. That Debo is pretty good.
Debo running wild on the
Ayuk's
Eagles,
pretty
and
good. McCaffrey's
really
pretty
just-
good.
The Avengers have assembled, and they just completely dismantled. How do you say it, Drew? Philadelphia?
Filthy.
Philadelphia. The one thing I'll say about this game before I turn it over, because I'm sure there's a lot that Drew would like to say, is I'm glad that Brock Purdy is getting some, he doesn't deserve this type of praise talk, because he doesn't. But has he been playing perfect in that offense? Absolutely. But we saw what happens when you took those pieces away. All of a sudden, he became not so great. And he should be nowhere near the MVP discussion.
No.
End of story. Is this best team in the league? Absolutely. Is he the most valuable piece of this team? Not even close. And that's all I got to say about that. So,
On that topic, before Drew takes it away, I really like me some Brock Purdy. I think I've been the biggest Brock Purdy supporter out of us at Party Chat Sports, but him drastically climbing up the MVP, rankings or standings, or his odds going as high as they did after just beating the Eagles. Yeah, he had 4 touchdowns, but they were mostly yak. So I like Brock Purdy. I think he's a good quarterback. I think he might be a little bit better than some people give him credit for, but he's not as good as others are giving him credit for. I think he's solid, maybe top 20, top 15 quarterback. And
he's perfect for the system that they got him in.
He's perfect for the system.
He's good. He does exactly what he needs to do.
Yep.
He hits the throws he needs to make, and for that, he's good.
He's a little bit more athletic than Jimmy
G.
And Jimmy G got the Super Bowl.
Yeah. And exactly like what you touched on, Gill. Yeah, he had 4 touchdowns. So all the box score watchers who looked back and was like, wow, Purdy went crazy. He dominated the Eagles. But I think his air yards on those 4 touchdowns were 8 yards. The rest of it was all, Debo took that 4-yard pass and took it 50 to the house. And there was some more like that. I think the longest touchdown was maybe to Ayuk in the back of the end zone there. I don't remember how many yards that was, but he also had a little screen that went for huge yards. If you can just dump it to Christian McCaffrey, Debo Samuel, Ayuk, who just is magically open all the time, George Kittle, even Elijah Mitchell's pretty good. They're just and we've seen before too the charts. It's actually a quarterback chart, but it shows how often their receivers are open or have their average yards of separation. The Niners are just off the chart. They're just off the chart. They average over 3 yards of separation, which is by far more than any other team. So yeah, you're going to have some success, hopefully, if you're even a halfway decent quarterback on the Niners.
That's my argument.
Your defense
for it.
also will get you the ball back, and you can do whatever because you have Chase Young and Nick Bosa on the same defensive line.
Fred Warner. Don't miss that guy.
Fred Warner. Greenlaw.
Armstead, they still got Armstead too. I don't know.
Yeah, just a fantastic defense, and they look so scary, man. They look so scary.
They're going to the Super Bowl. We already know.
The Super Bowl color thing is looking scarily true. Unfortunately, I mean they look so dominant if they stay healthy.
My argument for this whole MVP thing is it's the most valuable player, right? If you take Purdy out of that offense and put in a number of average QBs in the NFL into that offense, they would all do just as well. They'd all have fantastic numbers. And whether it's a Kenny, Zach Wilson would be a competent looking quarterback in that offense probably. He could hit the open guy. He could dump it off to McCaffrey, Gill, I believe. But it's crazy how just good the scheme is. It's what every offense wants to be. The team itself, it's what happens when you don't have to pay a quarterback $50 million a year. Maybe that's a smart thing.
You don't have to pay him $1 million. He's making like $900,000.
Yeah, for the next 3 years too. And there's nothing he can do about it until next year. He can probably start to negotiate an extension. But
I think it's after the third year. Yeah.
Yeah. Why would he? I mean, 49ers are going to be like, no, dude. We're paying all these other people. We can't pay you. But
my main takeaway is the Niners are very, very scary. Very scary. The Purdy MVP talk that came out of nowhere. Some people, DraftKings has Purdy as the favorite. Others have Dak. Most of them, Purdy, Dak, and Hurts are very close. I mean, Purdy on DraftKings was plus 300. Dak and Hurts were plus 350. I think it's time to take Hurts another step down, but that's just me.
Kind of crazy. Where's
I'm
Lamar
not going to be the one to say that Mariota should start over Hurts. I don't know if you saw some of that.
That dude's also not like
that's David Carr. He's not known for being a good NFL quarterback or being a good analyst.
Yeah, or Dan Orlovsky or any other.
I appreciate it though because it's the same thing when Cooper Rush won a bunch of games. And it's like, oh, maybe we should keep Cooper Rush and maybe he's the guy. He keeps winning games.
Doesn't help. Dude,
shut up. You're not watching anything. Hurt. Like, I think this is known. Hurts. The reason I hate Hurts so much is because he's an Eagle, first and foremost. Second of all, because he gets pushed across the line every 2 seconds, and it's super annoying. Anyways,
so on
the Eagles looked very bad.
One way, wouldn't it?
They looked very vulnerable. They basically look like the Cowboys. We're
playing for second.
Essentially,
you're playing for second.
I mean,
you're playing for a chance to win.
Eagles beat them last year, but it does feel a little illegitimized. But
you're playing for a chance to lose the 49ers in the NFC Championship game.
Got to take the chance.
And I'd rather be there than not. I'd rather be there than not, to be honest.
Me too.
Because you never know.
Me too.
But, so, yeah.
You know how many times I said that against Tom Brady and the Patriots? It's like.
But the Eagles, man, you got to feel bad as an Eagles fan because the Niners were running their mouth all week talking about the game from last year. It's a little sad when you're like, oh, we should have won this game. We should have done this. We should have done that. And the Eagles beat them pretty bad in the championship. Obviously, no Purdy, no backup, whoever the heck his name was.
Johnson.
They had Christian McCaffrey a quarterback at one point. Yeah, that's pretty bad. But Niners come in all week saying, yeah, we should have won. We should have won. We're better than you.
And then
they come in your house
and
kick your ass.
They deserve
That's embarrassing.
They deserve that.
That's embarrassing. You got to feel bad after that. So we'll see how they respond next week.
They're going to need to respond.
They showed up to your house wearing all black and kicked your ass.
They did.
After saying they were going to do it all week. And then they come and they do it.
Yep.
That is scary. That is terrifying.
Well, Deebo Samuel, since that game, he's been saying, since the NFC Championship game, Deebo has been running his mouth. And the 49ers and him, especially him, backed it up. The one Eagles fan I talked to, that's out there. He's like, oh, they got lucky. Huh? Bro, did
That
you
was
watch
not
it?
luck.
That's not luck. That's not luck.
You
That's-
don't go
is
on
that-
the road and score 42
Yeah.
on accident.
They got curb
That wasn't
stomped.
luck.
They got killed. There was nothing
The
about
49, I think I told him the 49ers opened a can of whoop ass on the Eagles.
Yes.
That's what happened.
Unfortunately for you, Drew, it may spark the Eagles into trying to prove some things this coming week.
I am wondering how you
Maybe.
feel heading into this
Could.
week. Would you rather play the Eagles coming off of a win against the Niners or after a loss against the Niners? Like, how do you feel? Because you guys do play this week.
I'd rather play the Eagles any time of the day, any week of the day. I'm not scared of those bums.
And it is in the Jerry.
That's why I
Dome, so.
I want them to hang on to the 1 seed because I want to go to Philadelphia. I want no part of San Francisco.
You have said that.
So
You have said that.
Yeah.
I kind of wanted them to win against the Niners.
And the more games that the 49ers have to play, more chances of randomness of losing.
Yes.
Well, I mean, if the
I-
if the Eagles lose this week to you guys and the 49ers win, the 49ers would have the 1 seed. Because 49ers are 9-3, they jump 10-3, Eagles would lose and fall to 10-3. So all it takes is this week, and the 49ers are going to grab hold of that 1 seed and probably not relinquish it.
The only saving grace is that they still have to play the Ravens.
Ooh,
The Niners.
Yeah.
right. That is right.
That's going to be
our Super Bowl preview.
So if
That's gonna be
the
chef's
Niners go undefeated but they lose to the Ravens, then that leaves space for either the Eagles, the Cowboys, or even technically the Lions to be able to move
Bro.
in.
Yeah, the Lions, I keep forgetting.
One
What
of,
if-
one of those 3 teams has to go unbeaten the rest of the year, and the Niners have to lose to the Ravens.
what
or
if it's
anyone
what
else, but that's more likely.
What if it's a Vikings versus Chiefs Super Bowl? All right,
Why would you say
enough
that?
jokes. Enough jokes.
All right, let's go back to reality here.
And we're moving on to, well, speaking of the Chiefs,
Fire. I knew that was
they
gonna
went to
happen.
Green Bay. And Jordan Love, man, the last couple games, things are clicking. Things are clicking for him, and Chris Collinsworth, I mean, he can't get Patrick Mahomes, out of his throat, even when Jordan Love is outplaying him and balling out against the Packers, or against the Chiefs.
Chris Collinsworth is making Sunday Night Football unwatchable.
I missed
It's
him
sad.
last
sad.
week when Jason Garrett, I'm not going to lie, I missed him when Jason Garrett was in his shoes,
Yeah,
but then
that's not
it's
exactly.
like, and then it's like, oh,
yeah,
wait.
Jason Garrett's not exactly a good replacement. But this dude cannot stop. He's doing tricks on it, man. He's doing unspeakable things on it to Mahomes. It's crazy.
He's under the table with Mahomes right now.
Yeah,
The amount of memes of just
so stupid. It's so stupid.
Even when Jordan Love did
Which,
something
like,
great, it
Mahomes
was
is
like,
good.
Mahomes
Okay,
could do
we
that.
all got it. We all know. We all know Mahomes is good. Like, let's move on. Jordan Love played good. I was really looking forward to the downfall of the Packers.
Me too.
Obviously, a lot of nightmares from the Aaron Rodgers days in Green Bay. Even the Mike McCarthy days in Green Bay.
and I ain't scared.
I really wanted to never see them ever again. But here they come. Here they come, making a push for the
And here-
playoffs.
This team
Never
lost to the Steelers like 3 weeks ago. Let's not just forget that. And the Steelers that was a Matt Canada Steelers. So
They also just beat the Chiefs.
yeah, but I think the Chiefs are fraudulent this year, and I think we've seen it
Yeah,
happen.
probably. But
Yeah.
Chiefs
Love
could get
is
first
playing-
rounded. They'd have
Love is
the
playing
Colts.
good.
Chiefs would have the
Huh?
Colts right now if the season ended today. Colts could win that game.
Love is playing well.
If the Texans end up with the 6 and the Chiefs have the 3 and they play and the Texans go into Kansas City, I'm taking the Texans in that game.
That's going to be a good game, I think.
That would be fun. I'm rooting for that.
So
a
remember,
rookie in Arrowhead in the playoffs.
It's
against
not a
Mahomes?
rookie, bro. It's the rookie. Let's be realistic.
No, it's still
rookie.
a
Remember when
Patrick Mahomes who has what is his playoff stat? I don't know.
I don't
It's
think he's ever lost
It's
in
like
Arrowhead
6
in the
AFC
playoffs.
championships in a row, though, or something that have been in
Ev-
Arrowhead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he would have lost to the Bengals
wait,
that
he
one
lost-
year in Arrowhead.
He lost to the Patriots in
Yeah.
Arrowhead. He lost to the Patriots.
But
in
it's
Arrowhead, when
the
Frank
stat
Clark
is
was
But
there's
it's the
outside.
been
championships
their
in a
stat
row,
is
yeah.
there's been
They've
6
made it.
of them in Arrowhead in a row.
Yeah.
And right now that is not the case because they are the 3 seed. So
Yeah.
Okay, so
Well, that's crazy. But yeah, Love is playing good. The Chiefs obviously need some non-Walmart cashiers at wide receiver.
MVS sold, and he just keeps selling.
Deontay's
As
going to
much
go
as
crazy
people-
on the Chiefs next year.
They need Gale
As
Adams
much
out
as
there.
people want you to believe that quarterbacks can elevate every single other person on the team, they really cannot. I mean, to a certain extent, yeah, you can put the ball you have to put the ball into a place that they can catch it, but you can't make them catch it.
Don't
Wow.
tell that to
We've
Jay
seen that
Herbo
with MVS.
haters. Don't
So-
say that to Jay Herbo haters.
Exactly.
Jay Herbo should
Exactly.
be out there making
So-
tackles, telling his team to tackle on defense.
He should be.
It was highlights of Justin Herbert playing safety at high school. They're like, man, he needs to get out there. What's he doing? He's not
needs to-
helping the team, you know.
He needs to be catching for Quentin Johnston. That's
Uh-huh.
what Jay
Yeah.
Herbo needs to be
But
doing.
that's basically Mahomes. Like, yeah, he can be the best quarterback, and you can't make anyone catch the ball, you know, or hold on to it or this and
No.
that. Like, he's not playing as dominant as we've seen him play, but he's also suffering from a lot of drops. I think they lead the league in drops.
Imagine, just for a
so
moment, imagine if he had a wide receiver like Tyreek Hill on his team.
That'd
Could
be
you
nuts.
imagine?
That'd be
crazy.
nuts. That'd be insane.
Somehow, though, Tyreek Hill, on a real note, is actually playing better on Miami, I feel like, than he did in Kansas City.
Well,
It's kind of crazy.
I saw a tweet about that, and it's because Mahomes is better than Tua. So he's not just staring at Tyreek the whole time and just throwing it to him.
Because he's fighting with Tyreek Hill. I mean, Travis Kelce.
Travis Kelce.
Same thing was with Tom Brady throwing to Mike Evans. Mike Evans is putting up dominant numbers with Baker Mayfield because Baker's just like, Mike Evans is down there somewhere.
This is
Tom
true.
Brady was like, yeah, I'm going to get the ball to Mike Evans, but I'm also going to look at Godwin and Gronk, of all people,
Scott
and
Miller.
Antonio Brown for that moment
Scotty Miller,
in
dude.
time.
Miller.
So it's because he's not just zeroing in on Tyreek.
Man, are we glad we're
Like,
not talking about a Tom
Tua
Brady-led Tampa Bay Buccaneers right now? Just
It
I
is
wanted
nice.
to reminisce on that. That feels nice.
It is nice.
Yeah.
We put that boy in retirement. I'm not.
Hey, Dylan,
Good.
remember, I think it was last week, you proposed a question, do the Rams make the playoffs?
Hmm.
Do the Packers make
I
the
said,
playoffs?
yeah.
Do the Packers.
Let me
before
let
you
me take
answer-
a look-see. Okay, all right.
They play the Giants this week. They host the Buccaneers. They go to Carolina. They go to Minnesota, and then they host the Bears.
Yeah, they do for sure.
I think
for sure
yeah.
they do.
They make the playoffs.
Absolutely.
That's cupcake
That's
schedule.
a cakewalk, dude. Kings of the North, man, and that game with Minnesota is going to be pretty darn important. Because right now, obviously, Dallas is locked up to 5, so there's really only 2 wild card spots, and there's a whole bunch of teams that are 6-6. You got Vikings, Packers, Rams, Seahawks that are all 6-6, that are all 4 teams, 2 spots, and it sounds like the Packers are getting that 6 seed for sure, and then the
They're getting
Rams
hot at the
are,
right time.
and the Rams are 6-6, but they're 4-1 in their division. Like they've been lighting their division up.
They have the
That's
Ravens
crazy.
this
Matt
week,
LaFleur
so
is undefeated in December.
I saw that. And
Wow.
he's going to stay undefeated in December, the way it looks.
It does look that
I think
way.
they're projected to match up with the Niners, though.
That'd be something.
Imagine. Yeah, I
That's
mean,
at
if
under-
they get the 5 or if they get the 6, then they would get the Niners in week 1 and they would be killed.
That makes sense. That's why I saw Packers fans tweeting, Jordan Love is going to do the one thing Aaron Rodgers couldn't and beat 49ers in the playoffs.
I don't think he's going to do that.
He's not going to.
being
That'd be
honest.
funny. I'm not going to lie. That'd be hilarious. On
That
multiple
would
levels.
I hope he does. I hope someone does.
It ain't gonna be the Cowboys. It ain't gonna be the Eagles. The Lions, maybe the Lions could just go get in a shootout with the 49ers and just hope that you score one more time than they do. I don't know.
You get Brock Purdy into a mistake.
Yeah.
That's kind of what you're hoping for.
Or the Vikings. Maybe the Vikings get them in the first round and let them have it. Anyways, you got it.
Speaking of a mistake, it was a mistake for all of us thinking that Jacksonville was better than Jake Browning and the Bengals this week on Monday
Who would
Night
have thought?
Football. Who would have thought?
Freaking Jags are so fraudulent, man. I try to tell everyone.
You did. You've
I
been.
don't want to
I knew
listen.
this. No, I knew this. I knew this when I watched that Steelers game against the Jags. That the Jags should have lost. If Minka Fitzpatrick was on the field, they would have lost. But anyway, sorry.
And like people are calling this like C.J. Beathard and Jake Browning. C.J. Beathard came in for a drive in the fourth quarter. I think it was just one drive in the fourth quarter.
We gonna act like that's not a pretty important drive, though. I'm just saying.
It was an important drive.
It is.
Trevor
a couple
Lawrence
of overtime drives.
Trevor Lawrence was in that game for 90% of it.
We gonna act like it's Trevor Lawrence's fault that Jake Browning threw for 350 yards. Honestly,
No,
I don't think it's his fault.
When your DBs just completely forget how to tackle Jamar Chase and just leave him wide open, kind of like Tyreek Hill in the Commanders game.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a problem. It's a little bit of a problem.
By the way, T. Higgins, thank you for not catching one more pass. That saved me in fantasy this week. I was about to crap my pants. Like, he had one catch there in overtime. I had like a 100% chance to winning my fantasy game, and I'm watching. It said 100% chance too. I screenshotted it just in case I lost because it was still overtime to play. I'm like, no, T. Higgins. Thank you, T. Higgins, for doing just enough for your team to win and my fantasy team to also win as I was going against you. So appreciate that. But Joe Mixon,
I think Joe Mixon saved one of my fantasy teams, but the funniest thing is that if the Jags would have won, I believe they would have been the 1 seed in the AFC.
Mm-hmm. They would have been. And they blew it.
But now they're going to be locked in a divisional battle with the Texans and the Colts.
Yeah, now they're the 4th seed, and they got the Texans and the Colts 1 game back from them, and they play at least one of those teams soon. And the Jaguars this coming week, and I don't know if it's been said if T-Law is out indefinitely or what the status of him is.
It was a sprain, so
they're in Cleveland this week. So, I mean, Kenny's ankle was also a sprain, so not all ankles are made the same.
They made T-Law walk all the way to the X-ray.
They did.
He did extra damage.
Man.
That is so funny. Like, was the cart lost?
The amount of people that were tweeting, like, bring the cart, man. Just bring the cart.
Buddy was asleep. He's walking about 0.2 miles an hour down the tunnel. Like, can we help this guy out a little bit?
Oh man,
nah.
Yeah, the Jags. Let me look up the Jags schedule real quick. My computer's at like 2%. But
you seen the Austin Powers meme with him trying to turn the cart around in the hallway?
Yeah,
that was the Jags cart. He was just lodged in between the two walls, just going.
So here's the Jags' rest of their season. So they got the Browns this week, the Ravens next week, and then the Buccaneers, Panthers, Titans.
Dubs.
So you probably go 4-1.
Yeah.
And that probably wins your division.
I'm not necessarily convinced the CJ Beathard Jags do that great against the Browns.
Oh yeah, that's true. I didn't think about the CJ Beathard part. It depends on how many games Trevor Lawrence is out. I haven't seen anything that says he's out for this amount of time. They haven't put him on IR yet, so that's gotta.
If he's out for the Browns, you might as well just keep him out for the Ravens and then bring him back for the final 3. Just don't rush it.
Yeah, that's kind of what they should do and probably will do. But that's 2 L's right there. More than likely. That
puts you at 11-6.
Jaguars Browns would be interesting. 2 backup quarterbacks. But
I think
good for. I
think I want the Jaguars to win, but we'll see.
Good for the Jake Browning-led Bengals.
Jake Browning having his he
Joe
had his
Burrow's
moment.
a system QB.
All right.
They should roll with Browning. They should roll with Browning. Build the team.
People are saying.
People are dumb. But good overtime win nonetheless for the Bengals when everybody, including all of us, counted them out this week and have counted them out.
They should have been. It's
They
fine.
should
It was
fuck them.
Dillon's fault. He gaslit us into thinking Jake Browning was terrible.
They
Damn
went,
you,
bro. Dude did nothing. Oh,
It's
I don't
okay.
know.
He wasn't
Whatever.
ready yet. It was his first start. He just had to get warmed up.
It's
And
too
now he's the
cold.
best
It was
quarterback
too
in the
cold
league.
in Cincy. He's a warm weather guy. He's a
He
warm
was
weather-
on what's that guy's name? I think it's Nick something. Nick Wright.
Yeah,
Oh,
he was on
yeah.
Mahomes
That-
Mountain, bro. He was on Mahomes
He was top of
Mountain.
Mahomes Mountain. He's the peak. He's the best quarterback in the league.
I watch
Jake
that every
Browning.
week, man. I love Mahomes Mountain. Oh man.
We'll see how he does against the Browns next week, and we'll let you know how we felt about his performance next week. But thank you for watching the Week 13 episode at Party Chat Sports. Make sure you continue to follow us at Party Chat Sports on the feed, on YouTube, on TikTok, Twitter. We'll keep you updated on everything we got going on. We should be getting a parlay out this week. Hopefully, knock on wood, we do get that parlay out this week. I believe it's Cam's turn to do that, so hopefully he does get that out.
Where is Cam?
There's going to be something Vikings more than likely, and I'm willing to bet there's a Brandon Aubrey leg to that parlay as well, because we got to
course.
start adding those to
Because
every
he's got a perfect
parlay.
leg.
He's got a perfect leg. What is it? Over 2.5.
I'm gonna jinx it.
Knock on wood, I
What's
do
his
not.
face?
It's a lot. It's a lot. That's all.
It's a
I
lot.
forgot his name. Jim Nance, I think it was, or no, that was the other game that we were talking about. Al Michaels on Thursday night though.
Gotcha. Well, we'll see how it
was
goes.
Trying to jinx it as
Oh,
hard as
shit.
possible, but
Well,
he was
gotta go.
trying to.
You gotta
hopefully
go.
we
Take us
didn't
home.
jinx it, and let's see what the parlay that Cam builds. I'm intrigued about that, and of course you can keep up to date with everything going on at Party Chat Sports on Twitter at Party Chat Sports. Hope everyone has a great week 14. If you didn't have a great week 13, and if you did have a great week 13, well, we'll see how you do week 14. We'll be back next week at Party Chat Sports, but until then, see ya.
Go Cowboys.
Boo.
Where's Cam?